G'day, Patrick. Welcome to the Politics of Food.
Good morning, Patrick. I'm here in Melbourne in my office, and you?
Yeah, sunny Vancouver, 25 degrees today. Blue skies, just a beautiful day in sunny Vancouver.
And you're in. It's pretty cold here in Melbourne. It's 15 degrees today. But you've been participating in the World Cup, you lucky fella.
Yeah, yes, I was lucky enough to see the Australian game last week. It was wonderful. We were sitting in the stands and had a great view of the goals that came in. We were sitting in front of a very rowdy group of Turkish people, and by three-quarter time, they weren't so rowdy. So it was a wonderful experience.
It's great to see Australia winning on the global stage in the World Cup and Canada this morning, Patrick.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it was 6-0 to Qatar. So they've had a
Wow.
truly wonderful game today. So, it's been a great event in Vancouver, and a lot of the streets in downtown have been closed down, and there's lots of excitement, lots of food stalls, street entertainment going on. Crowds are coming out, really enjoying the atmosphere down there. So I think it's going to be a great event, and I think, and I'm hearing from my some friends south of the border, the Americans are all getting involved in it as well. So it's going to be, I think, a really, really good tournament this year.
Yeah. I spoke to my buddies in Seattle. They're looking forward to the game. I think Australia-US is 5 a.m. tomorrow, so Melbourne time. So I'm hoping that we're going to give a good show, but it's going to be a tough game against the US. They're a formidable competitor.
Yeah, we need to win or at least draw this game. I think it'll boost our chances to get up into the next level. So that's exciting. I'm looking forward to watching that at 12 p.m. my time tomorrow.
It's great. The whole country's getting behind Australia
Yeah.
soccer. If only we could have the whole country getting behind food and agri.
Well, I mean, that's what we're here for, isn't it? Get food and agri going and boost the business, boost our exports around the world, boosting jobs in Australia, and boosting technical innovation in Australia, and all the good things that come with it, including great lifestyles and lots of employment for all the folk that can be employed in the food and agri business sector.
Yeah,
So that's our goal.
and the budget changes that have come through and been announced recently. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I thought it's worthwhile for us to talk a little bit about that. There's a lot of talk about the tech sector and how they're being carved out, or maybe even further carved out from the family trust. But when you look back over the years, and I joined retail back in the 80s, early 80s, at Woolworths. A lot of the things that we sold there were made by small businesses. People who mortgaged their homes, worked like bloody dogs almost. From sunrise to sunset to get their product made and onto the shelf. Bakeries, baked bean makers, soft drink makers. Everyone put their heart and soul into their business. And so their reward was always going to be their retirement and the value of their business. They either sell it on or they pass it down to other generations. And so part of the budget discussion in my mind was, why is tech different to the rest of us? Why there's so many good young people out there with so many great ideas that are tech in nature, that are in food in nature. They can create better and more sustainable food. We should all be treated the same way, in my opinion, to expand entrepreneurship in the country, not just in one lucky sector or the other lucky sector. What about all of us together? So I think my call would be to ensure that all entrepreneurs in the future receive a fair go, and that we need to have a business atmosphere in the country where entrepreneurs can thrive and grow and be rewarded. Not only
Are you saying you
Australia,
want to start up? Are you saying you want to start up support food startups as opposed to tech startups?
absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I heard the mining sector today talking about that sector needs some carve outs and things, but food and agriculture, but food production particularly, I think is the largest industrial base in the country. And it is owned and operated by a lot of multinationals. I don't know what the percentage is, but just from business, you and I have been in retail and manufacturing. Multinationals do have a big say or a big ownership of the Australian food production sector. But there's all kinds of Aussie entrepreneurs there making things and creating new ideas, and that's being exported around the world, as you know, because you're representing quite a few of them. So why do we want to put them to one side when we all should be celebrating all of our entrepreneurs and giving them the ways and means to move forward and grow the economy for Australia and for all of our kin and
Yeah,
folk?
that narrative around food startups and that whole innovation piece, I haven't heard anyone talking about that, and I think if we could encourage that, and we could have talk to government about how we could facilitate that, it's going to create jobs, it's going to create value-added manufacturing, and I think it's really needed. And I know there's some of it going on, but if we could put an incentive under there and really fire it up, and talk to the retailers, talk to Woolworths, Coles, Aldi, Costco, and Metcash and the independents about, hey, come on board and support innovative startups for food. I think that has a terrific narrative around supporting jobs, creating value-added goods in the country. I think it's really got legs. What you're saying, Patrick?
Yeah, I think it's a celebration of innovation. Australians invented a lot of things, and that wasn't all in the tech sector. And you can't eat anything that tech grows because they don't grow anything. They don't make food for you either, so you're not going to be hungry if you're relying on the tech sector to feed you. So I think I also think that a good economy is a diverse economy too, and at our fingertips. Outside your front door and my front door in Sydney when I'm at home, there's all kinds of innovative companies making great food products. Some fail, a lot succeed, but they all work bloody hard to get there, and they should be rewarded for it, in my opinion.
So what have you got? What have you got to say about the budget? These changes, Patrick?
I think that they stepped back, which is good on a couple of things, and they to be congratulated by looking at that. But I think that they need to step back even further and probably think clearly about entrepreneurship across the country. And if they need more tax dollars, then maybe cut a bit of spending. I throw that in there as well. But I think that in the budget, I think a big miss was the food and agricultural sector. We've talked before combining all those different ministries that impact the food production sector. They should be combined under one and have a minister for food. We're not there yet. I don't think we've got any acknowledgement from the political parties that's a direction. We've talked to them. I know you've had some conversations, but I do think that driving a tech sector, driving the mining sector, and driving the food sector are all very, very important for the diverse economy that we want in Australia. So everyone can participate. Not everyone's a software engineer or AI specialist, right? So there's a lot of room there for all of us to grow together.
Yeah, and what you've got? You want to talk about business sentiment at the moment? You've got some data on that?
Yeah, I was just looking at some data there. I'll share one of the screens that I've got. Yeah, Patrick, there's a couple of screens I've been looking at. I'd like to pay attention to the economy and what's going on, and one of the ones that really grabbed me was under the website Trading Economics. I keep an eye on different issues around the world, but our bankruptcies in Australia are really growing a lot. In fact, I look at, looks like they're at a 10-year high if you look at this graph here. 2016, fairly modest number. And then during COVID in 2021, a few, but nothing drastic there. Then, of course, as you get up to this last year in 25 and now in 26, you can see the number of business bankruptcies increasing, which is a real worry. On one hand, it's the people who aren't doing well go bankrupt, which weeds out some of the losers in the economy, but the ones it also means that perhaps the economy is not supporting industries to grow and thrive. And so we should all be a little bit worried about the sheer number per month, which I think 600 was the last one that is shown here. So I hope that's not an indication of the small entrepreneurs not succeeding, and that the business environment in Australia is not giving those entrepreneurs and small businesses enough oxygen to grow their business.
Yeah, that's a concerning but not surprising data around bankruptcies. They did say that post-COVID there would be some more, but it seems to have picked up in the last little while. I mean, and what about business confidence, Patrick? You've got some data on that as well.
And so I also pulled off this slide as well. It talks about small business sentiment, which I think was really interesting. You can see that, 16 and 18 or so, the zero being, flat line there. You can see the sentiment was, up and down a bit, but more up than down. We went through COVID, and of course, it was a devastating time through all the different closures and lockdowns that we went through. And then after COVID, business picked up, and you can see small business sentiment picked up with the businesses, a great regrowth, from the COVID depression that we had. And then it sort of trended down a little bit, and then 2025 was a pretty low year for small business sentiment. And it started to trend up again for this year. So you've seen some nice growth. I think the Q3 in there is improving, but it doesn't show us, of course, small business sentiment for post-budget. That hasn't come out yet. So I do think that there's a lot of work that the government needs to do around our small businesses. A lot of those small businesses, of course, are food and agriculture. There's all kinds of other ones in there too, but that would be, in my guess, the main component. So they've taken quite a few knocks with higher salaries, higher input costs with energy, higher costs with freight, higher costs with imported ingredients, higher costs with domestic ingredients, as well as we've had a number of knocks, including the Strait of Hormuz. So I can understand why their sentiments are a little negative right now, but I think it's also a little bit of a clue that as a government and as a country, we need to kind of really look after that small business person, because they are the drivers of employment and business in the country and innovation.
That's a fantastic graph. And if you look at pre-COVID, it was up around that, from 16 to 18 was up around that seven mark. And then going down to COVID, it obviously fell off a cliff and then rebounded quite quickly. What's concerning is that the decline from the top, but what's also concerning is we're well below the averages prior to COVID, which is a concern. And as you say, the cost of gas, electricity, wages, import costs, transport, fuel, all of these things are contributing to an inflationary rate in food manufacturing at around 20 to 40%, far higher than the consumer price index, which is an inflation rate running at around, anywhere from, 3 to 4.5%. So it's really affected our industry, and we've been harder hit than most other industries around the cost of doing business. And I think this graph reflects the challenges facing small business, which food and agri manufacturers are, I would imagine, a big part of that.
Yeah, I think also that goes back to what we've been talking about all along, is that we need to have a bigger voice in the government to get in front of them. I noticed today in the Australian that with the tax changes and the backflip that they did, the mining came out immediately, the tech sector came out immediately, other sectors all came out and said, we want a bit of this as well, basically. But no one from food and agri really came out and said a hell of a lot. So there definitely needs to be a bigger voice and a more attention paid to the sector, I think, from the federal government side. And that's our job, and that's why we're doing this podcast, right?
So to address some of those high costs that the industry's being hit with, we call on the government and the opposition parties to come together in Canberra to have a food and agri summit, where we want to talk about, we don't want to talk fest, but we want to talk about how we can turbo boost the industry, and how we can reduce the cost of doing business, how we can streamline processes, how we can increase the productivity via a post-farm gate incentive for modernising equipment and improving productivity, because as we know, Patrick, productivity has been a real issue in the industry and a real issue for Australia, don't you think?
Yeah, I think the modern technologies that are coming out now, I know there's a lot of Australian businesses that are using AI and some really adaptable technology on the farm sector, and in food production as well. Mechanization is improving, and people continue to invest in that area. I do think, though, that Australia as a country needs to lean into AI and how that can help and assist, and make us more competitive in the international stage as well. And when I say AI, I'm not meaning robots running around picking tomatoes, but there is processes that AI can help with and streamline workflow in both in food production and in agriculture as well. So I think the government needs to, if that fund is available to turbocharge industry in both agriculture and food, I think it'd only be a net benefit for the country as a whole. The fear of AI, of course, is that they will decrease the number of jobs available because it'll be smart and more efficient. Well, that's all true, but smart and more efficient means that you have a better price on the marketplace. And obviously, if you have a better price, you'll be able to export or sell more, both domestically and on the export side. So I think we need to lean into it and not be afraid of the employment side, because the employment side will take care of itself as we expand our business. So if that fund's available, I think AI, I think mechanization and applying of technology to improve our efficiency is quite a wonderful thing to do. And I think our country needs it, to be honest with you. A lot of us are doing it in little notches everywhere, but overall, as a country, I think the government can lead that charge.
So if we had a single approach, if we had everyone singing from the same hymn book, and we all focused on productivity improvements to improve the competitiveness of our industry, that would make us more competitive on the global scale. I mean, we've talked about this many times, but the Europeans have been are doing a really good job in this area, and that's why you see so many European products on shelf in retailers here in this country, because of the focus and the dedication and the single-mindedness of making sure that the industry post-farm gate in Europe is supported by the government, and I think this is something that we really need to continue to focus on, improving productivity, improving our competitiveness, and starting to sell much more value-added food items to the world.
I agree, and that's why we're here. Well, on that note, I think we'll end it for the week. And we'll likely bring next week, we'll bring a CEO in to interview and talk about all those things we've raised today as well.
Yes, we have. We're very excited to have a CEO of a major vertically integrated food manufacturer and grower. And stay tuned. We'll have that. We'll have that interview and program for next week. Thank you so much, Patrick, and go Aussies.
Oi, oi, oi.